Hey everyone, welcome to Logan's Mosh Pit. Glad to have you here. Do me a favor and please subscribe if you haven't already. Welcome to another episode of Logan's List, the place where I share my opinions on all things music related, ranging from common topics to obscure topics. They say nobody cares unless you're beautiful or dead. To a certain extent, that harrowing remark may ring true. Numerous musicians end up surpassing sales they amassed in life following their death. This video probably represents the most ominous topic I've ever ventured into. Nobody enjoys recording such depressing content, myself included, but at times it feels like a necessary obligation, something that must be done. You want to do your part to prevent someone from fading into obscurity. By approaching grave territory, we are reminded of all the wonderful contributions various individuals made while they were here. Ironically, death aligns with a celebration of life, too. Today we're going to discuss some figures regarded as behemoths in their profession, whose loss reverberated throughout the music community and left a gaping hole that possibly scabbed over but refused to completely heal. Personally, I thought it would be too controversial to title this video Most Painful Music Losses or Worst Losses in Music, something along those lines. Doing that would suggest that someone's life ranks above another, and I classify that behavior as insensitive. Whether internationally recognized or not, I don't believe that makes a difference. One life shouldn't carry more weight than a counterpart. Each one created an impact. Not bigger or smaller, just in different ways. Although I formulated 10 names, I didn't rank them in any meaningful order for similar reasons. I want to remain neutral. I couldn't live with myself if I turned this video into a top 10 list. All I'm saying is, the upcoming losses share one thing in common. They all turned the music business upside down, left a noticeable absence. One by one, I will unravel when they died, how they died, and what quality I will miss most about each of them. Some of those qualities are connected to what they did, yet some are tied to who they were. Of course, I never had the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to meet any of them. Either I wasn't born yet, or I wasn't lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. However, studying interviews and stories often serve as helpful focal points to accurately gauge personality traits. Besides, you don't have to personally interact with a person to form a bond. You guys know that. Ask anyone around you. It's absolutely possible to genuinely love someone from afar based on whether their interests match your own. Now that we've gone over the ground rules, let's meet our fallen heroes. A ton of names I will fail to mention were gone too soon. A disturbing trend across the board. Use some common sense. If I don't mention an individual you cherish on my list, it doesn't mean I dismiss their death as irrelevant. Not at all. For time's sake, I only made room for 10. First, Eddie Van Halen. Of Van Halen, he perished on October 6, 2020 at age 65, just a few days ago, the most recent death from throat cancer. His heartbreaking death compelled me to film this video in the first place. I was stunned by the news, felt numb for the rest of the day. I knew Eddie's health had declined recently, but I hoped he would find a way to pull through. What I will especially miss about EVH is his gargantuan stage presence. This guy had a knack for leading, a player who took charge. He was so dynamic with his formidable Frankenstrat. Until the bitter end, Eddie coaxed indescribable rattles, pops, and sparks under his watchful fingers. Almost like a guitar sorcerer. Nearly inconceivable to comprehend. I bet Kid Eddie, KVH, even manipulated a broom handle into producing awesome sounds. You couldn't help but stop what you were doing and cast your undivided attention on EVH every time he showed up to perform. Very few hold that distinct honor. His name and guitar will intertwine forever. Next, we have Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, aka the King of Pop, died on June 25th, 2009, age 50. His body shut down as a result of the drug propofol. The timing made the loss even more difficult to handle. He was only weeks away from a monumental comeback tour called This Is It, and his fans never got to see those plans come to fruition. I remember going with my family to see the This Is It documentary, filled with remarkable rehearsal footage, right after it hit theaters in fall 2009. Great documentary, and I was blown away by the elaborate visual effects Michael envisioned. Music definitely counts as an art form, and Michael basically personified that concept. The number one thing I miss about Michael are his wild dance moves. As talented as the man was at singing, I believe his singing pales in comparison to his delightful dancing. Using his dancing, Michael exhibited grace, composure, charisma, and his body behaved similar to a flowing river instead of a solid. Does anyone remember this game? Michael Jackson, The Experience? I used to play it a lot, and I still failed miserably when I tried to copy Michael's dancing. I looked like I was having a seizure. Next, Bon Scott. Bon Scott, the AC/DC frontman, departed on February 8th, 1980, when he was 33. His cause of death was ruled death by misadventure, specifically alcohol poisoning. Thankfully, AC/DC managed to rebound successfully with their blockbuster album Back in Black later that year. Nonetheless, the midnight black cover showcased on Back in Black symbolized a grieving band. Bon's sense of humor will be what I cherish the most about his memory. I mean, he was a really funny guy. Listen to some of these quotes. "I've never had a message for anyone in my entire life, except to maybe give out my room number. What's a punk band? Hey, who's got a beer? I was in a band called the Valentines, and they broke up last week. I was married at the time I first joined the band, and my wife said, 'Why don't you write a song about me?' So I wrote, 'She's Got Balls.' Then she divorced me." Those are just a few hilarious quotes from Bon Scott. You never knew what Bon would say. Next, David Bowie. He passed away on January 10, 2016, taken by liver cancer at age 69. Once again, the timing extrapolated the grief we felt. Bowie's Black Star album was released merely 2 days before his death. Basically strikes me as an eulogy, a farewell gift. What stood out the most to me about David Bowie were his unique costumes, particularly Ziggy Stardust. I believe the flashy outfits he wore definitely reflected his character. He didn't care how others perceived him, or if they criticized him for being weird. He wasn't trying to please other people. David Bowie was perfectly happy just being himself, regardless of how much it refuted the status quo, and that's a crucial takeaway we can learn from his life. Next, Kurt Cobain, Nirvana's lead singer. Kurt's life was cut short on April 5th, 1994, allegedly due to a suicide. I say allegedly because many fans still insist, and some evidence discovered at the scene implies events went down differently. Only one person knows what actually happened. Anyway, Kurt is among the youngest deaths on my list, snatched away at only 27 years old. What I will remember Kurt for is how flawlessly he channeled his negative emotions and expelled them while he sang. It seemed like he wore his heart on his sleeve. Go back and watch the Where Did You Sleep Last Night performance. Doesn't the rawness shining in his eyes and deafening growls issued by his throat tug at your heart? Next, Dimebag Daryl, cherished member of Pantera and Damage Plan. Dimebag's time was up on December 8th, 2004. struck down at 38 by a despicable fan's bullets in the middle of a Damageplan concert. I would say the most memorable aspect of Dimebag Daryl was his mesmerizing guitar paint schemes of his primary weapon, the Dean from Hell, outfitted with sharp angles, an eye-catching paint scheme framed by sizzling lightning bolts. Dimebag's guitar proved nearly as electrifying as he was. Next, Jimi Hendrix. We just passed the 50th anniversary of Jimi's death. Jimi expired on September 18th, 1970, brought about by an overdose of sleeping pills. Like Kurt, Jimi also fits into the 27 Club. The number one quality I will miss when it comes to Jimi, apart from his extraordinary guitar prowess, would be his gentle nature, a far cry from what occurred on stage. Away from the spotlight, friends who hung out with him contended that he was a very friendly, caring, generous, and quite modest person. You've probably seen that Dick Cavett interview where he told Jimi, "You're considered one of the best guitar players in the world." And a bashful Jimi replied, "How about one of the best sitting in this chair?" He appeared to be an extremely approachable and likable fellow. Set a good example for how humans should behave. Next, John Lennon, part of the Beatles. You know, just an average, ordinary, nothing special band. Never took off. You probably never heard of them before. John Lennon died on December 8th, 1980, when he was 40, unfortunately in an eerily similar manner to Dimebag after he was assassinated. John's marvelous songwriting stands heads and shoulders above his other characteristics, if you ask me. He had a gift for songwriting. Don't take my word for it, though. Go listen to In My Life and tell me it's not a sacred song from a lyrics perspective. Next, Chris Cornell from Soundgarden, Audioslave, and Temple of the Dog, who bit the dust on May 18th, 2017, age 52. Suicide by hanging was the coroner's verdict. The hardest part to swallow related to Chris's untimely death is how we were robbed of this legendary voice. A voice that easily fluctuated from snarling to poetic. I'm absolutely positive that Chris's voice could have ended wars. That's how good it was. No one sings like you anymore. Finally, Chester Bennington, derived from Linkin Park, Grey Days, Dead by Sunrise, and Stone Temple Pilots. Chester also transitioned following a suicide by hanging that occurred on July 20th, 2017. Chester was just 41. Chris and Chester were incredibly close, so when Chris passed away, the loss deeply affected Chester. In fact, he chose to depart on Chris's birthday. He probably wanted to be reunited with his buddy. Chester's blistering, drawn-out screams are what I miss above all else. Every time I heard him scream, my blood freezes in my veins. Words aren't even sufficient to describe them. Not even close. Well, that concludes my list. Sorry for making everyone sad. Unanimously gone too soon. Rest in peace to all 10 musicians. That does it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. I'll see you next time. Until then, rock on.